Beep.
Alrighty, we're live. Welcome back to the Movie Will Marathon. I'm Andrew.
I'm Mac.
Woo! We're on Terminator 2 Judgment Day. What is that, 1991? Directed by James Cameron, all that good stuff?
Correct.
Is it 91? Is it 91? Okay, I was right.
91.
Cool. So, here we are, fully into the marathon. And if you listened last
Movie
week...
two.
Yeah, movie 2. If you listened last week, I am not super crazy about the Terminator. And, I acknowledged it's a pillar of special effects and sci-fi movies and all that. This movie kicks ass, man. I love this movie. This movie is so good. I'm fully invested in the Terminator, and it's amazing. I think this is a timeless movie, but I want you to talk before I steamroll. So
No, that's really interesting because I do want to check in. Maybe I got it mixed up. I thought you were saying this was your least favorite.
No. So I hope I didn't say that last week. I thought I had said I've seen the first 4 of these movies one time, all the way through once each, and this was the one I liked the most when I watched it years ago, and I was intrigued to see if I was going to maintain, if that was going to be something I still believed, and it was, God, this was such a fun, wild ride. Even after I've seen it.
There's a lot good.
There's so much good, and I feel like I noticed more good things the second time watching this. And I do vaguely remember what the third one is about. I'm not excited for the drop-off, because I'm worried this is a fluke, because I've never heard anything good about any of the other Terminator movies except for this one. This one kicks ass. This movie.
Yeah, it's fascinating because it's almost a decade after the first one.
I know. It makes it. Honestly, I was thinking about our constant MCU discussion and how people do complain about the time between certain characters. I'm not going to rant. I'm just saying people do talk about that a lot. And it's weird to think that this full-blown franchise, it's 10 years between each movie. But
yeah, it continues like that too. I think the next one was in the
2001 or something. Yeah, which is crazy.
Yeah. Although it completely slipped my brain last time when we talked about the first movie.
Yes.
It's set in 1984. It's an apocalypse technology film.
Yeah.
Set in the year 1984.
Yeah. Oh! I haven't read the book, so I didn't catch that right away. That's good. You were like, mic drop, 1984, and I was like, yeah, 'tis a year. And I was trying to make connections. I was like, well, Back to the Future's 85, so what? It's on my audiobook list.
It did not hit me until in this film somebody said the words 1984, and I went, oh my gosh.
Oh shit.
That feels intentional.
We got.
I don't know if it actually is, but this film in particular, Judgment Day, because Terminator had some perspectives on humanity and worldview and stuff, right? But this one really starts to sort of drive it home. It's very much about Sarah trying to prevent humanity from going down that same direction before, and how futile it all kind of feels. And to have, I don't know, this hint of 1984 and all that stuff in there, there's a lot of layers in this film that I feel wasn't present in the first one. Which is probably what makes it so good.
Yeah. I mean, that, and the action is amazing, and it's not just dumb action. I think the action is incredible. I think we're at a point, especially now, where a car chase isn't just a cliche, it's kind of a staple. It's just a part of an action movie. But this movie, which is almost 50 years old, I'm exaggerating, but it's on the older side now of movies. Technically, it's 30 years, more than 30 years old. It has 2 of the coolest, most fun, captivating car chase scenes of any action movie I can think of. Easily, I would argue top 5. The scene where the T-1000 is chasing the Terminator with John on the motorcycle in a truck, And Terminator's doing that move he does with the shotgun where he like rolls it on his finger.
Yeah, he rolls it. Yeah,
love that.
That was so cool.
I gotta hop on this just for a second. I was gonna try to hold off. As a child, and as an adult, will you stop it, dog? Thank you. Sorry, that's the dog. I wasn't like into guns. I wasn't really into motorcycles. And I wasn't really super into trucks. This movie, though, and this scene unlocks some sort of uncultivated part of my 12-year-old brain where I just love everything that they do. And then later, the second car chase. First of all, I'm sorry, I'm already forgetting. There are 3 car chases because... Or is one like... No, there are 3. Because the second one being the Terminator driving backwards... While he and Sarah Connor have John Connor reloading both their weapons while they are both systematically fighting the T-1000, and it's got all metal arm crawling on the car. And then later they're driving a stolen police van while he's chasing them with a helicopter. Like 3 for 3, man. These car chase scenes are amazing, and I love all of them. And they're like, I'd love to watch like the breakdown of the special effects, because I'm wondering how much of that was like a real helicopter, like when it flew over the bridge. Was that real, or do you think that's model work?
Yeah, it's they had a crane. They put the helicopter on a crane and they moved it through some of those. And I know this because, well, yeah, I'm just gonna say it. I ended up watching this with my parents because they were in the room with me, and they actually had a lot to say about their experience with the film, which I thought was really interesting. For example, I mean, he's creepy, but they do not like the T-1000. They kept saying throughout the film, like, that is so creepy. That is incredibly creepy. I do not like that. And like, I was bothered by him, but I wonder if like the special effects were good enough back then for that sort of like morph sort of change of a villain to really mess with them, and it'd be like a fundamental piece of what they find spooky and scary.
That's so interesting. Yeah.
Because I've seen plenty of amorphous, shape-shifting villains that ooze and, have sharp hands and blades. But they did not like him. They thought he was creepy. And he is objectively less awkward than the 101. Like, he can mimic social interaction. He's not exactly polite all the time, but he can make you believe that he's human. But I guess the guy, like, went so far as to practice running without breathing.
Ew!
I don't know if you know. Yeah, the actor was committed.
Ugh.
He practiced running without breathing so that his chest wouldn't move while chasing John on the bike.
Commitment.
And he actually got so good at it that he caught the bike and he had to slow down.
It's like, dude, we need you to reel it back. That's not in the script. You're supposed to let him go. I do want to definitely stop me if I'm going too long, because I did really want to talk about the T-1000 because good lord, amazing movie villain, amazing special effects that I think hold up very well. I know the Corridor Crew guys have done a video on him, and it was great, and that's actually segues into my other point. I really wish, like, if I had a list of 10 movies I wish I could go back and watch when it came out and know nothing about it, this would be like number 1 or 2. Because even when I watched this the first time, I couldn't tell you everything about it. I didn't know the guy's name and I didn't know the extent of his abilities, but I knew what the T-1000 was, and I knew he was the bad guy. And I wish so badly I went into this film not knowing anything, because they set it up so well for that to be an incredible twist with, again, the being able to mimic real emotion, and Sarah just says that 2 people were sent back and he's dressed up as a cop, so we think he's the good guy. Ha ha ha. Little did they know, maybe satire or political commentary, who's to say? I don't know. I'm not gonna touch that.
Back to the cops,
I know,
felt intentional,
maybe a little bit, but like it was,
but like even in the narration at the beginning, they say her narration says there was a following protector.
Uh-huh.
Like she mentions there were two Terminators sent, one for Sarah, one for our young John, and
Mm-hmm.
the rebellion sent a following protector. And the one that we see arrive first
Is
is
the
the
Terminator,
T-100.
right? Exactly.
Yeah, and then 101, I think.
Yeah.
And then the one we see second,
It's
and
just the new
obviously,
guy. Yeah.
yeah, Schwarzenegger is Schwarzenegger, so that doesn't
Mm-hmm.
change. But they actually went so far as to try and mimic like the body type of
Mm-hmm.
Kyle for this one
Right,
shot right here.
because I think that's, again, I wish I could have watched this, especially like with you, and like we don't know it going in, and like I wonder how many people were able to pick up on stuff as they went, because Terminator comes in, Arnold, and no, like knowing it already, I'm like keeping track. He doesn't kill anybody right away.
Mm-hmm.
Like he's
Yeah.
taking time to not go out of his way to kill people. He's like asking instead of demanding things. Like it's
Mm-hmm.
weird. And then the other guy, he lands just like the Terminator does, but when Reese came in at the last movie, he landed all weird floppy sided and broken, and like he landed on his, I don't know, he landed on his ass. Like it wasn't glorious and flawless. So I wonder how many things, because like they lay it all out. It is perfect
Mm-hmm.
how they set that up,
Mm-hmm.
and I wonder how many people were able to pick up on that. And I wonder actually if it was spoiled in the trailers or not, because that was also back in that day where trailers had to tell you the whole movie to make you go see it. So I would love to look that up at one point.
Well, it's actually interesting because, oh, I can't remember if he had revealed himself at this point or not, but at one point he's in a chase scene, the 1,000 one is,
Mhm.
and he like side eyes a silver mannequin.
I know. Yeah. Well, at that point, they had revealed that he was the bad guy because he's in the mall
Okay.
fight with Arnold, but they had not revealed that he was
Right.
liquid metal yet. And I
Mhm.
caught that as well, and I loved that. That was cool. Ooh,
Mhm.
chills. Ugh. And it's like also the combination of the Stan Winston god level practical effects and the, for the time, CGI or whatever. Like I think it mixes really
Mhm.
well with the big claw arms and his, especially like towards the end where he gets like blown in half. All of it looks so
Yeah.
good. It is so good.
Yeah.
Ugh.
It's really weird how well they're able to light it, honestly,
Mm-hmm.
because it's
The
a
reflections they
reflective
do.
metal
Uh-huh.
liquid. It's a reflective metal liquid. Like how do
Mm-hmm.
you they do a really good job with it. Like again, especially for the time. Like you look at it now, you know it's not seamless, but it never bothers you like the
Yeah.
plastic face did in the
Right.
first one.
Oh,
Right?
yeah, exactly. I think there's only time something like that kind of came around. It was like short enough that it wasn't a big deal. When he's smashing the Terminator's head in with the big metal thing hanging, that doesn't look great. But it's also not really important at the time. Like it doesn't really matter. So I think yeah. I mean, granted, it is what 10 years, a little less. So the special effects definitely have
True.
a big special effects are like technology. It increases and gets better very quickly in a way. So they've had some time, but like they utilize that time. It looks great. The opening fight I found way more captivating than almost anything else we saw in the future past thing in the last Terminator.
And I noticed the aesthetics of the thing are incredibly similar,
Mhm.
but it's not the same shots because you get more
Yeah.
detail. The cameras have improved in quality.
Mhm.
So when I was first watching it, I was like, oh, this is just footage from the first one. Then I started paying attention. I was like,
Well, not
no,
quite.
because they couldn't recover like that kind of footage to the level of detail. So they
Mhm.
just replicated it extremely well and let you see some of the details that you weren't able to see before,
Very
which
cool.
is really cool. Yeah, and then also to use after that, use a burning playground as like to sort of
I
set the
know.
tone.
Yeah.
Really good with
Yeah.
the idea of like they're very actively trying to prevent a nuclear, Holocaust situation. Um, they're also the assassin is sent after a kid. So like a
Mm.
lot of this film is very much talking about how in danger the future is using kids as a
Mhm.
very real element there. Um, and more thought was put into that than I thought was gonna be put into it.
Yeah. No, I agree. It was it's a good story, I think, in general. I have less nitpicks than I did with the last one, for sure. That I think that might, as a whole, I don't think that's going to maintain like that thought process. I think the time travel, as we get more of it, is going to become a little more problematic. But like right now, I'm fine with it. The idea of the bad guy sending a robot and the good guy sending a robot, and those robots going at it, and like I think it all works. The what's his name, Miles, I like his character, I like his involvement, I like his kind of like immediate turnaround once he's told what's happened. I love the Terminator's little arc for the most part. I like John. I want to hear your thoughts on Sarah.
Sure.
We don't have to talk about it right now if we want to focus on some other specifics.
No, I've got notes on Sarah.
Okay, so I would like to start and then immediately stop and get your opinions, because you might need to reel me in here.
Okay.
Because I know Sarah Connor is an icon for lots of reasons, one of which being she is a badass woman character in a society and a culture and a movie world where there aren't a lot of them. But I don't know if I like her character or not, because she kind of annoys me. I think she makes some very stupid decisions, and I don't know if I'm not getting something, if I'm not giving her enough credit, if there's just something I'm not really like paying attention to, or if I'm not alone. But I'm willing to be put in place if I'm missing something, because I don't want to not give her just due if I am not, because I find at first I get her situation, but then the longer it goes, like, for one, she's super capable, super kick-ass. I love the escape scene. She does all that without the help of John and the Terminator, and before like they get there, like, she gets out, she doesn't have to be rescued necessarily.
She's basically home free.
Yeah, like, she basically did it. She's clearly very intelligent, but I'm gonna leave it right there for now. I want your thoughts and opinions as a whole, and then I will either reveal my negative thoughts or we will agree. I don't know. We'll see. So go on.
Okay. I actually found Sarah pretty interesting to look at in this film, because she wasn't really what I kind of like remembered her being, but to be fair, I don't really think I had a lot of details in my memory about her from this film. And it was interesting to see how the story kind of allowed her to be frazzled, I guess. In the current world in which we exist today, because we're trying to communicate to women that they can do whatever they want to do with their lives, there's this idea that the woman, the superwoman, is all things almost perfectly, right? And she's a badass fighter, she understands political theory, she understands science, if maybe that's her area, and she can be a fantastic mom. That is not Sarah's story.
Very true, very true.
Sarah spends most of John's early childhood apparently hooking up with guys who can teach her things. Like, one of John's lines seems to indicate that the main reason she was searching for guys is for some level of shelter and protection they probably provide her, and to learn skills that John might need to lead a rebellion against machines in the future. And that's not a great way to raise a kid, but it is effective in terms of raising him to be a rebellion leader, because the guy knows a lot. He was hacking an ATM just for fun.
Knows how to fix a bike. And he's like, what?
Yeah.
At most, he's 10? Like, or a little younger? Like, the actor clearly isn't, but the kid is supposed to be a about 10ish.
Yeah, he's young and very capable already. Like the scene where he's helping them reload their guns.
Exactly. Yeah, he knows what to
and
do.
that scene's actually where I started paying attention to it to a little bit more, because when Sarah's in the asylum, she wants to see John when she hears about the T-101 back, because she's worried about him. She's like, they've sent another Terminator, John's gonna die. She also wants to see her son, just kind of like generally as a mom, but like she is not panicked. Like clearly she has the ability to break out of this place, but she hasn't done it yet until she knows that like John's life is in danger. So she's not like, I have to be with my kid at all times.
I didn't interpret it that way. It seemed like just as soon as she got her hands on a paperclip, like she never had the opportunity to do that before.
That's a good point.
I think it was definitely a good catalyst, because that's where one of my complaints comes from. And I'm not going to cut you off entirely. I'm just adding to that specific moment with the asylum. I found it very frustrating and hard to believe that she would, the whole telling everybody what's going to happen, I don't find that believable. Well, she does though, because like they have video of her doing it. Even in her.
She does, but that's after they catch her trying to blow up a computer factory.
I know. I'm just saying, like, she knows what happened to Kyle when he did that. I don't find it believable that she would do that and then keep doing it. Like, I like that the doctor calls her out for being smart enough to tell him what she wants to hear. I feel like she'd be smart enough to know he would know that. I almost would have, I think it would have been more believable if she went the whole 6 months, or not even 6 months, full catatonic, like Mr. Glass in, is it just Glass? Like the sequel to Split, where everyone thinks that she's just completely catatonic, so that she then escapes when she gets the opportunity, but not constantly snapping because she wants to save the world. Like, all you're doing is hurting you and the world. Like, you know what's gonna happen. You know no one's gonna believe you. Yelling it louder isn't gonna change anything, and I think you're just hurting your cause. She seems, I almost wonder if they wanted to maybe go down the path that she has gone crazy, but they didn't want to devote themselves to it. So it feels kind of back and forth, and I don't know if we're supposed to like be rallying behind her or not.
Well, there is a moment in the film where it's interesting, because there's so many role reversals in this film, and they really play with the roles they created in the first film and then just continue to kind of juggle them around in this film. The Terminator, Arnold, he has become the protector, but he doesn't protect John or Sarah in the way that Kyle Reese did. Kyle Reese was very human, right? And the Terminator is super simple. In fact, he's been programmed to obey John's commands, so he's almost more like a tool than anything else. He's given some character, right? But his agency is not really a thing. He doesn't decide how they handle the situation that they're in. Sarah does. So Sarah actually takes on the role of Kyle quite a bit in this film. She's dealing with the authority figures that won't believe her. She's the hard, battle-worn veteran, kind of, at this point, right? She has some empathy, but is more focused on the objective and the main goal than anything else, right? And that shows up a lot in her relationship with John, where she's not like trying to protect him directly necessarily in their firefight. Like, she wants him safe, but the way she's doing that is by preparing him to fight. And he somehow has learned like some levels of empathy and emotional intelligence from this, even though Sarah does not seem to have taught him any of that. In fact, the only thing that really softens her is her narration about the bit where she's like, the Terminator might be his dad, like the closest thing he'll ever get to a reliable father, which is a very interesting line to put in there, but like, okay. And it's not until she targets Miles Dyson,
right,
and is face to face with him then she realizes that she has become the Terminator. She is killing someone in the
Oh,
present for a sin they've not
I
committed yet.
did. I did kind of. I missed that.
And that's why she can't pull the trigger.
See that honestly that frustrated me.
Hmm.
Um, I. I was thinking like with the dreams you've been having and the things you've been screaming and the people you've been willing to hurt, you have the moment now to save the world and you don't take it. I find that to be at worst poor writing, at best you're kind of a pain in the ass character in this moment because you've just again solidified the death of everyone. I don't like those moments. We talked about this a little bit with Planet of the Apes. You kill everybody in your path until you get to the guy, and you're like, no, I can't do it. Especially not in front of his kid. Oh, I can't do it. It's like, okay, yeah, I'll just let them all die in 30 years. Like that's
Right.
somehow better. So, but no, I did not think about that as how Sarah became the Terminator. That's good. That's good. That does
Yeah.
change things a little bit.
It expects the audience to be able to put that together because I would argue it is not clearly communicated. Like I think the moment is there, and if you spend some time thinking about it, that becomes kind of obvious. The reason I caught onto it so quickly is because I was paying attention to the role reversals, and
Mm,
obviously we have RT-1000 who is acting like a Terminator for John,
right, right.
but like it hit me at the moment like she is currently trying to kill someone for something they will do in the future. She's a Terminator, and I think that's what's supposed to hit her in that moment too. And to be fair,
That's
I don't think that Sarah Connor actually directly kills anyone in this film. And the people that she seems to have it out for are the people who have done something that harms her
That's
actively,
fair.
right?
That's fair. She seemed very
So, yeah.
willing to, and
This
I
was the
kind of
first time she was going to assassinate someone who's completely innocent so far, right? He doesn't know what he's doing.
all right. That okay. That does, yeah, that helps a little bit.
I'm not going to say that she's the most sympathetic character, and she does spend a lot of the film sort of like low key freaking out about stuff. But I don't know. If I'd been locked up 6 months in a mental hospital, I think I'd be pretty
Right.
frustrated
Yeah. Well,
too.
I'm not trying to blame her for what the story has done to her, and
Hmm.
I think again she's a very strong, driven character. Like I mean, John Wick is definitely taking notes. It's just if you are I don't know. I am torn between her being aware and prepared and smart and her doing what seems to be consistently stupid decisions for what her goal is. I almost wonder, and I really don't know if this would be better or worse, but I wonder if it would be more interesting if full reversal over 10 years she thinks, you know, the only proof I have of Reese's story is a picture and a robot. That's it. Like, I don't really
Right.
know what else. So, like, if we come 10 years and John has spent a great deal of his childhood being raised, like Loki, he's been raised to be this thing, and then she realizes this is not how a child should be raised, and she wants to, like, flip. And then the Terminators show up again, and she's like, ah, fuck. Now we gotta go back to it. I dropped the ball. We're like, she's convinced herself that it's not going to happen. Maybe we have that time in the asylum that happened back when he was like 6 or 7, and she realized, holy shit, I have a kid, and
Hmm.
I'm talking about the end of the world. I don't know for sure if that's going to happen. If I don't know if the timeline has changed now with Reese being here. Like I do kind of think as well. There's not a lot of paradoxical talk in this movie where like maybe
Hmm.
there should be a little bit because she's like, you know, we could just blow the thing up and then it never happens. It's like, yeah, but would that then mean that you wouldn't have a kid because Reese wouldn't have to go back? I was like, it's just at this point in the public like mindset, Back to the Future 1 and 2 and 3 have already happened. We are aware of the idea of erasing timelines, and I just feel like you don't have to do exactly that. You're your own thing. I get that, but like, what happens, Sarah, if you blow up Cyberdyne, and we don't get the war or the apocalypse, what happens? Do you know it'll be a branch, or do you think you just change? Like, what's gonna? There's no discussion about that, and I feel like there could have been.
There was a small discussion between the Terminator T-101 and John about a line I think Kyle delivers in the first film, Reese delivers in the first film, which is "There's no fate but what you make," and I think it's used more for like kind of a bonding moment between the Terminator and John. But it's been too long since I watched it. But Sarah overhears the conversation, right?
She kicks off the conversation because she carves in the table the no fate thing, leaves, and John then has that moment with the Terminator, and they realize what she's doing. And yeah, it's implying that the future is not set. You can change it. You can do whatever. And I'm totally on board with that. I just kind of wish there might have been a conversation, especially with Miles, the big scientist guy, about like, well, can I quit Cyberdyne? Can I stop all this? Or will it cause an issue? Like, will you even come back, Mr. Terminator Man? Will John even exist? And I just wonder if that would have been a conversation worth having.
Well, it is interesting, especially with the fact that it seems to be suggested that the Terminator coming back for John in the first, or for Sarah in the first place, it might have been what set Cyberdyne in the direction to create the artificial intelligence.
That makes it so much more confusing, especially with the future movies, because it's... I know...
I honestly, in this setting, I don't hate it. And I don't know if it's just because it's earlier and I'm, like, forgiving it for not understanding the lore around time travel that we've established in popular stories now. But... for some reason, that almost seems to work really well because it's about consequences and choice. And because the machine was sent back, the consequence is that people discover that technology, and humans aren't going to leave that alone. So they start to develop technology, which of course then creates machines that are like the thing. And I don't know. And then the scene where John is watching the two kids play with startlingly realistic toy guns.
I know.
And he says, "We're not going to make it, are we?" And
it's in your nature to destroy yourselves.
This little, 10-year-old kid is sitting here talking about, the fate of humanity and how humanity is doomed to destroy itself. Humanity finds a tiny piece of computer tech and starts using it, which will eventually create the thing that destroys them. It feels right. Like, it fits in the story of the film. And the fact that it's something from the original Terminator that Sarah is trying to destroy. She's got unfinished business, right? I don't know. I think it works, even though if I were to apply the typical rules of time travel and paradoxes, we would probably have some issues, really.
Well, I am very much excited to have that discussion towards the end of this marathon, because I'm not going to spoil anything by looking up, Terminator timeline explained, because I know there will be spoilers, but I want to have that discussion later on. For now, I'm going to have to keep reminding myself to not think about it and just try to enjoy the movies for what they are. And coming back to that, I do very much enjoy this movie. It is very entertaining. It is very fun. I do think a little bit it drags just after Sarah joins the team.
There's a moment of recovery that takes quite a bit of time.
A little bit. That your analysis though did help my perception of her character, and I think watching it again from that perspective one day, I think that'll be nice. So thank you for that. Let's see though. What else? Oh, okay. I do. I want your. Oh, you go ahead.
Well, we haven't really talked about the T-1000 all that much. We've talked about his special effects and stuff.
And how,
I mean, I think this kind of jumps to the end a little bit, but near the end of the first film, they almost destroy the Terminator using a gas truck explosion. In this one, they
Yeah.
almost beat the Terminator by
Yeah.
leaking a gas full of liquid nitrogen onto
Yeah.
him.
I have actually a
Cool.
lot to say. Yeah. Well, first of all, amazing. Special effects wise, that was gorgeous. Um, I was a little bit like, I don't know if it's a time thing or if I'm just not observant, but how often do you see trucks of liquid nitrogen just out on the road? I don't, but whatever. Because I had forgotten how the T-1000 is actually beat in the movie, and I thought that's how they did it because I was like, oh, brilliant! That's the way to do it right there. That's really convenient. But whatever, that's cool. And then it comes back together, and I was like, what are you doing? Pick up the pieces real quick, man. Dude, throw it in the lava. Go. Then it did encourage a thought process that I do think is not a massive negative, but definitely one worth adding to this film. These motherfuckers don't think at all of a plan as to how to take on the stupid thing. They do not come up with a single idea beyond maybe this time the bullet will hurt it. Because how many times do you have to shoot something before you realize, it ain't gonna work? Like, and the T-101, he says he's got all these files and information, and I'm like, okay, are you gonna like maybe present an idea? Like a plan to take it on? Like something? Like, we have you in another 80s movie slowly realizing how to take on the Predator. So I know you guys can do this, and I know James Cameron, I know you're smart enough to do this, but like, they're just running from it, and they're just shooting it over. Like, did you have a plan? Did you have an idea?
Especially with the T-101, I see that critique. I will say, in the first film, they do state that the Terminator is not supposed to be killable. Like, it's gonna haunt Sarah the rest of her life, is the idea. And Reese's job is to somehow do the impossible and protect her the rest of her life, or at least until she has John. And I think the idea is supposed to carry over in this film. The idea that, like, you can't kill this thing. It's going to find you. It's going to end you. There might have been a small hope in the back of their minds that if they destroyed Cyberdyne, then there wouldn't be a future where the thing could be sent back. But that's not really how these movies have worked so far. So
I get that, and she says that as much in her little overture or whatever, her monologue, where it's like, and I realized the Terminator would never stop. It would always come for John. Blah 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 blah. But I'm sitting there, I'm 8-year-old me is like, it's a robot. You gonna try an EMP? You gonna try electrocuting it? You gonna try some magnets? You gonna try to melt it? You gonna try to freeze it? Like, everything that ends up happening to it that affects it is an accident. Like, they don't think of anything, and I think that's the biggest oversight, honestly, for a team of smart characters, to not think of anything. Yes.
This was something I noticed, and I assumed you would notice as well. But in the first film, the only things that can travel through time is stuff encased in flesh.
I noticed this. I was gonna ask.
The liquid Terminator is not in any way encased in flesh.
Yeah, I was gonna ask about that. Like, how do you think that works? Because that's a big old no-no, isn't it? That's that's like rule 1.
He looks like humans, but he's never had the layer of flesh that the Terminator has.
There's definitely some sort of nerd from the 80s out there that says, well, Terminator said it's living metal. It's like, fuck off. That's not the same thing. That's
it's clearly about material. Like, come on.
There's no blood, there are no organs. Like, I wouldn't think that would work on Vision, and Vision has organs. They're synthetic organs, but he has organs. It's not working on that son of a bitch. He doesn't have anything inside there. It's all goo, metal goo. So no, I did notice that, and I was like, okay, so are we gonna adjust that? Because no? All right, sure.
Somehow they did it. He's here now. I mean, in reality, that's all that really matters for the characters.
I know, but
from a world building perspective, where like you maybe want to touch on that just a
Maybe
little bit.
because now that the rules have changed, you're just showing up
Mm.
naked for no reason. Just because. I can understand how in the first one it's like, well, what do we, okay, guys, how is it that both of these guys come in and they don't immediately come back with super advanced technology? It's like, okay, well, let's say that tech can't travel through time. It's like, okay, sure, yeah, I get that. It's like, okay, now we want this really cool badass robot. It's like, but boss, wouldn't that not work? Shut up, Jimmy. It's been 10 years. You think anyone keeps up with these movies? No. You know what happened in the last 10 years? They brought dinosaurs back with mosquito blood. Fuck off. No one's gonna care. Movies. So, like, I can understand to a degree, but I do kind of wish maybe Sarah was like, hey, T101, what's the deal? And he's like, oh, well, you know, they updated that. Time travel is different now.
Yeah, yeah. They probably just didn't want to explain why Arnold Schwarzenegger was naked again.
Yeah, whatever. Whatever, I guess. I do think, though, that the T1000 is the highlight of this movie and also the only thing that really brings in the biggest issues of the film.
Consistency
But
issues?
yeah, but it's one of those
agreed,
things where like
agreed.
it's one of those movies for sure where like the positives massively outweigh the negatives. But the negatives
Agreed
are
again.
still there. Like they are, especially if you are paying attention at all. Like you said. So yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, 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 yeah.
The Hasta la Vista line is in this.
Yes, a lot of the
movie.
iconic ones have come around. Yeah. I like that.
It's interesting because there are a lot of first line, like quotable lines from the first one, and a lot of them make it back in this one. The "Come with me if you want to live."
Yeah, well, a lot of them I think
Jack.
they're made iconic with this one, right? Because in this time around, the Terminator is saying them. Like he says, "I'll be back" in the first one, but "Come with me if you want to live." I think most people would say, "Oh, that's Terminator's line." It's like, well, Kyle said that first, but I don't
Yeah.
think anyone really cares. So yeah,
When he said I'll be back in the second one, Judgment Day, at first I was kind of like, obligatory, of course he's gonna come back. But then he did almost exactly the thing that he did in the first film, which is he walked out of the cop station and then drove a car into the building. And he did the same thing in this one, where he walked out of the building, got in a cop car this time, and drove into the building. So the fact that it mirrored the moment that closely, I was like, that's
consistency.
insane. Yeah.
Yeah.
That was really good.
I did also. I like the first time he really smiles is when he picks up the machine gun. Which is that was so funny. The development of like mild emotions that the Terminator gets over the course of this film is nice. And I want to add to that. I complained last week that a lot of the things that the Terminator does, I have since seen in other movies to the point where I feel like those movies have improved upon that kind of concept. This concept of a kid kind of becoming friends with some sort of weird machine monster guy that doesn't quite have the same kind of emotion, that is definitely something that's been replicated lots of times, but I think this is still like the best example of it. Like it really,
honestly
really
good.
works. Yeah, like it's good, and I can't think of anything that is better. The only thing I can think of that might compare is like the Iron Giant.
Yeah, my biggest, like, I guess, question about that dynamic is once John and the Terminator partner up, and John realizes that the Terminator has to do what he tells him to do, he's programmed to obey him. John takes on more of that empathetic teaching role, almost kind of what Sarah had in the first film, but really more about being a representative of humanity and how to be a good person. And so he's kind of teaching the Terminator slang terms, but also like how to be worried about how humanity is inherently destructive, how to not kill, generally basic moral things. He teaches them about relationships, honestly. Like the Terminator doesn't really have to destroy itself at the end of the film. And you could argue, like, this lines up really well with its programming, too, where, like, its job is to protect John, right? But the idea that the programming would then conclude in the self-sacrifice, like, that's a logical progression perhaps, but definitely feels very moral, very sort of soft. I don't want to say human necessarily, but it feels like something that the Terminator would never do, right?
Yeah.
So he's kind of become his own thing at this point. And my only critique to all this is that John does not act like that in the first 15 minutes of the film.
No.
He is a little punk.
Yep. Little shit swizzler is what he is.
Yeah, and maybe things change when he realizes that his mom was telling the truth and everything he believed about himself is probably true. That might be enough to change his attitude from what we see in the beginning of the film. But it is a sudden change.
It is.
That we don't because it's a kid actor, which he does a pretty good job. But as a kid actor, so maybe we don't.
He does fine. I would not.
He does all right.
I wouldn't quite go to good, but I think he does fine.
I mean, he's not the Stranger Things kids, but it's fine.
Yeah, fair.
Yeah.
I think part of it as well is in the beginning of the movie, he is a 10-year-old ish acting like what a 10-year-old would be if it was a criminal. Then halfway through the movie, he's like a 13, 14-year-old doing what a 13, 14-year-old would do. So like I think in like maybe a subconscious way, the actor maybe forgot he was supposed to be borderline a child and became him in this situation, reloading the guns and hiding, like helping his mom and like being sad about the Terminator and talking about his past. Like it's much less I am a child and more I'm a teen/tween in the situation. Because like he's still acting like a little turd and he is immature, but like especially like when he takes the kid away when Terminator reveals his arm, like he's starting to show more of the leadership and the empathy and all that. He's helping his mom as she's going crazy. Like he steps up, but it comes across more natural with what his age looks like, I think. And then
like he's younger than 10. I agree with everything you're saying story-wise, but I don't know. There are some kids out there who have really thoughtful situations, and like to be fair, being shot at is scary, but it sounds like this kid's had a lifetime about being around guns and weapons, and reloading a gun is a very physical, basic mechanical task.
That's fair.
That one in particular, I'm going to go ahead and say I think a kid could do that when they're 6 years old. You don't want a 6-year-old reloading a gun, but the ability to do so is there. But when it comes to some of the more mature conversations he has about, humanity and all that stuff, that only makes sense for a 10-year-old to have those conversations if it's something that he's heard parents do, or parents have had a conversation with him about that. And there's a good chance that Sarah has done those things with him. So I don't know. I give enough to give it enough of a pass. When he intervenes on Sarah's behalf, where he's like, we don't kill people, that seems a little extreme, but then you see him lay down the law with the Terminator. Like, these people are actively shooting at his mom, and he's like, you don't kill them. So I don't know how believable that is, but it is consistent with the character, at least.
I suppose. I guess I would amend my thought back to I think John is kind of muddled in age and direction, and like not necessarily in a bad way, but I do think it's conflicting for me as a viewer to watch this 15-year-old and know he's supposed to be like 9, and then do things that you would not assume a 9-year-old would do, but you could see a 15-year-old do. So it's kind of hard to keep track of if I'm trying to keep track of it.
It would have been really good for them to actually give him a specific age at the beginning of the film. Maybe. And if you do the math about the changes in the year, I don't know, do they give us a year for this film?
Is it not 1991? Or is it later than that?
I don't know that it says.
If it's not the year it comes out, I guess it could be a little bit later. Because without getting too ahead of things, I know what happens at the... Well, shit. I know what happens at the end of the third one, but I also know that the third one takes place after when Judgment Day was supposed to happen because of the time travel mumbo jumbo. So now I don't know. This could be right before 1997. He could be at 15.
Yeah.
Shit. Now I don't know.
15 would be a little old. Would be a little old for the way the actor played him.
Well,
12 would be reasonable.
12 or 13 would be like that. That's exactly where I think he should be. And maybe he is, and this isn't 1991. And that's one reason why Sarah is such a nut, because it's getting closer and closer. Interesting.
Yeah, I don't know.
That is something that we clearly don't know because we aren't familiar with the Terminator franchise. Look at us, little babes in the woods. Ooh. We will come back to it one day when we've done more research. I don't want to Google anything because I know there's going to be cool things to experience, and so I don't want to spoil it with YouTube or because these movies are 30 years old. Like there's no spoilers. It's all out there. It's totally fair for articles and videos to just talk about the thing as a whole, and I want to avoid as much as I can.
I will say, I don't remember the third one very well. I think I have seen it. I don't remember it like really at all. And I've only seen the most recent one, so there is one that I'm kind of like missing. It might be Genesis. So we'll have to see how those go. I would imagine that most of what people remember about the Terminator either comes from the first one or the second one. I will say I enjoyed the most recent one, but I don't remember if anything sort of like radical happened in that one versus what happened in the middle two here. So I'm also interested to see how it all goes down, and I'm avoiding looking stuff up as well.
Well, I was thinking while watching this one, why isn't the T-1000 more iconic, more popular? Because I mean, I'm sure it is, but I was just struggling to like, why? It was like, I just don't get it. And then I remembered what they do with the T-1000. I believe a T-1000 are an upgrade in the next movie, and I was like, oh, that's why. So,
I was just thinking it might be hard to sell a villain in a cop suit.
Okay. That's just you.
Think about the time period. Like, if you were to start selling a little cop figurine in toy aisles, and it was the word villain on it?
Well, okay. Maybe, sure. I don't know. I wasn't there, but maybe, sure. I guess. I don't think that's the reason, though. I think we'll come back to it. But tis a whale, because for me, tis a whale.
Tis a whale.
Tis a whale.
Like more of a whale than the previous one.
Oh yeah, bigger whale, more details. Beautiful whale. Love that whale.
It's a dancing whale.
Just a dancing whale. What?
I don't know.
I'm trying to think if I covered everything. So like this is one of our longer ones, but I think it was worth it. This was a good one. And I mean,
there's a lot you could take a look at. I was really fascinated by the role reversal stuff that it did. So
I do have one other thing that I the Terminator, for one, the whole I can't self-terminate, but I can create the perfect situation to do so and then let you kill me. That's stupid. That's straight up, that's just lazy. I understand, but that's dumb.
He should have just like jumped in. But I think the reason they did like that is so that Sarah would kill him again, essentially. I mean, same tool too. Like, yeah.
But what I struggle with is he tells John to chuck the arm and then has the wherewithal to remember the chip, but not his other arm that he specifically removed. I don't remember in what capacity, but I know for certain that other arm is gonna come back because of whatever weird unchangeable timeline rules may actually exist in this universe. That other arm that's stuck in the gear thing definitely comes back in some capacity, and he just left it there. I was like, dude, pick a lane. You have to remember all this shit or you don't.
You thought you were.
Yeah, but beyond that, tis a whale.
Tis a whale.
Yeah, cool.
We did it.
We did it. We're done. Bye.